no scriptures without, we're going to foundation basis now. So let me set this up for you. Anybody know who Dunbar is? Anybody know who Lord Dunbar is?
That's a guy.
Of course, that's a guy. That's why I said Lord. Nobody knows? If you don't know, we don't know.
No.
Okay, not a problem. Lord Dunbar is actually, says it right here. Governor who? Dunbar. Of who? So what he was actually working for the British government during this time. And this is coming right before what you call the Revolutionary War in America was getting ready to take place. You got to understand, we got the redcoats and we got the colonials. And what's taking place right here is a proclamation that he made. Sister Shibat, you're going to help me as usual. So what are we going with?
Lord Dunmore's proclamation and massive black Toryism. Freedom for blacks did not come about initially on the side of those who opposed the British. From 1772 on, Royal Governor Dunmore of Virginia had threatened rebellious patriots. It is my fixed purpose, he said, to arm my own Negroes and accept all others whom I shall declare free, and I shall not hesitate at reducing patriots' houses to ashes and spreading destruction wherever I can reach.
Okay, so what do you guys get so far from this?
So he freed Negroes to fight in the war.
Well, it's getting up to them. So what are you saying now, okay, so you got the British, right? And who is he basically talking to right now, or actually making this proclamation to? The who? The rebellious patriots. So the rebellious patriots would be who?
The South.
Well, not only the South, but would be who?
It would be the colonial British.
The colonials. Because you're dealing with the 13 colonies now. Because what you're doing now, the rebellious patriots, Lord Dunmore, he is actually what? A representative for who? The original British what? Colonies that basically stayed loyal to who? Staying loyal to the crown. So now he is getting ready to fight this what? Rebellious people who are going to do what? Rebel from where? From the crown. So that's who he's addressing to right now. And he's saying that how it is his fixed what? Purpose, he said, to arm my own who? Negroes. Because number one is, on the British, when did the British first set up in the United States? Anybody remember?
1606.
In the 1606, 1607, Virginia colony, right? So, they've always had slaves. You follow me? They've always had slaves, but later on you're going to see what's happening here. Read on.
By the time he issued this proclamation on November 7, 1775, thousands of blacks had flocked to the British side to join his Royal Ethiopian Regiment.
We have pictures of those people, though. Anybody later on want to see the slides of what they look like? I have all of that. We'll show you that. So when did the Revolutionary War start?
1775.
1775. So by the time the Revolutionary War started, what happened? Thousands was on what side? On their side. So that's why you say we fought on both sides of the war. You see what I'm saying now? We fought during the Revolutionary War, we fought on the British side, we fought on the colonial side. That happened again not only another time in history, what I'll show you later on. Go ahead.
Because of Dunmore and the High Court's 1772 Somerset decision.
Okay, this is very important. Pay attention to this. This is very, very important, what you're reading here right now. Read that again, sis.
Because of Dunmore and the High Court's 1772 Somerset decision that bondage was outlawed on English soil, the southern states seceded from Britain to preserve slavery.
Okay, so now y'all know why the South did what now? Seceded to do what? Which was dealing with the colonial colonies again. Now, what High Court are they referring to? Where it says Dunmore and the High Court. What High Court? Where?
The Crown in England.
The Crown in England. There's a ruling that came down. Anybody know who Somerset was? Somerset was a slave who actually went over to England with his master and ended up suing for his freedom. And he got what? He got his freedom. So now, what's happening now, the colonies now over on this side, how are they making their money? Predominantly off of what?
Slavery.
Off of slavery. Now, in order now, what are you dealing with? Status, and you're dealing with jurisdiction. So now, in the colonial jurisdiction, or in the British jurisdiction, it said that slavery had been what? Slavery had been what it says. Bondage was outlawed. So that's in that jurisdiction is outlawed. So what are the colonials going to do now?
They're gonna flee from, they're gonna
What did they break away and set up what?
their own government.
Their own government and jurisdiction to do what? To continue slavery. So you got to understand that now. Because the first two pillars of law is once again what?
Status
And jurisdiction. I can only rule in my jurisdiction. So now, within their jurisdiction, now they fighting to set up their own jurisdiction. Continue.
In his 1775 Taxation Not Tyranny, Samuel Johnson, the great English essayist, rightly quipped, how come we hear the greatest yelps for liberty from the drivers of Negroes?
Okay.
But
Correct.
Dunmore's black troops suffered smallpox. He was eventually forced to retreat to Manhattan. One of his soldiers, Titus, however, became Captain Ty, the leader of successful multiracial guerrillas.
Guerrilla. So we're fighting guerrilla war tactics now. So now he's saying now, which is actually the greatest, Samuel Johnson asking now, how can you want to say that you're fighting for freedom, but you've already been, you got slave yourself, and guess what? So you're being used as a pawn again, any which way. It's always been that side. Great Britain now, even under him, he's saying, look, for y'all looking to leave, we're going to take away the source of what's keeping you what? Wealthy, which is what? Slavery again. Continue.
Let's see. One of his soldiers, guerrillas operating in New Jersey. Guerrillas operating in New Jersey. In addition,
50 cents?
In addition, every English commander
Recruited.
recruited blacks and thousands of...
You gotta swipe it. Swipe it. Yes. Swipe it to the left. Yes. Alright. Continue.
And thousands of the page, please.
Rashidi sleeping. Media.
And thousands of the unorganized followed every command, gradually being recruited to become soldiers and pursue jobs around the camps. In 1779, the commander of British forces in the colonies, Sir Henry Clinton, issued a proclamation welcoming blacks in any occupation. A huge number of escapees, perhaps 40,000, ultimately joined the Loyalists. Many became regular troops, including at Yorktown.
Where? Yorktown. Go ahead.
Britain did not have so many redcoats in America, so they had to rely on black troops.
Okay.
And
Did you just read what you just read?
Britain did not have so many redcoats in America, so they had to rely on black troops.
So
Fighting for the crown.
So you're fighting for the crown. You're fighting for the crown. Because now the crown now, we are saying that how they're trying to do what? Get rid of slavery. So we're flocking on that side again. Fighting for them to fight those that's doing what? Wanting to hold on to what? Slavery. Sound familiar? Sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Murphy Steele, a black pioneer, reported a vision to an aide of Sir Henry Clinton. A voice had come to him, God's voice, he said, telling him to tell Clinton, to tell General Washington that he must surrender or Clinton would recruit every black man in America to fight. Steele's was wise, strategic advice, but Clinton did not listen. Before the Civil War, American abolitionist authors did not discuss the central role of the empire as the freer of the most oppressed for fear of being thought unpatriotic. Afterward, this matter has long been eschewed as in Gary Nash's apt phrase, the Revolution's dirty secret.
What's the dirty secret? Go down now, where is it? Where it go? What you go?
I saw.
Go back.
Go back. You scrolling up fast, didn't you? Go down. 40,000. Okay. What's it?
Black patriots as the best American soldiers.
Okay. And what does it say?
Free blacks and slaves fought in every American battle. Initially, George Washington sought to discourage black recruitment,
But sooner
but
realized
soon
what?
realized that Lord Dunmore's strength might grow against him like a snowball in rolling and become an avalanche. It was thus military competition which produced a major impetus to recruit black patriots. In 1778, Governor James Mitchell Varney, of Rhode Island, wrote to Washington that he could not find enough recruits among whites and wanted to form a black regiment. Washington agreed, promising to purchase the freedom of black volunteers. The governor formed the first Rhode Island regiment of some 250 blacks and Narragansett Indian.
They're all the same anyway. We got the pictures of this over here. I got the research for that. We have those. So when you see the quote-unquote black, quote-unquote soldiers fighting dressed up in regiments, now you understand exactly what was taking place behind it. So now, once again, we fought in every single war that they had. Okay? I ain't gonna read no more than that. I'll go to the next one. Let's get the next slide. Y'all get Lord Dunmore's proclamation. Y'all can write that down. Dunmore's proclamation. Because I guarantee you, most people don't know about this. Was it that one or the other one? This one? Yeah, this one. Most people don't know about that. And not knowing that side of history has been told in American quote-unquote historical classes and history classes. If you don't know that side, you get really just a half side of history to paint your mind thinking that how it was all about doing good. So, alright. Now, next thing I want to deal with now. I want to deal with the Morocco and this basically historical, what most Moors know today as what they call the Peace and Friendship Treaty, because you're going to get confused and you get mixed up in that as well. Now, historical background on that itself. If you read that now, sis, go ahead and start with the paragraph itself. You ain't got to get into that. Let's get into this.
Morocco and the United States have a long history of friendly relations. This North African nation was one of the first states to seek diplomatic relations with America. In 1770...
Stop right there. Read that second to last line. What it says, one of the what?
One of the first
One
states.
of the first. Did it say it is the first? You know why it says it that way? What was the first country to actually be in diplomatic relationships with the newly founded nation? What was the first country?
Spain.
Nope. France. France was the first. But yet still you're going to hear everybody still telling you that how well we were the first and Morocco did this and Morocco did that. It's all BS. Go ahead. Morocco was not the first.
In 1777, Sultan Sidi Mohammed bin Abdullah, the first progressive of the Barbary leaders who ruled Morocco from 1757 to 1790, announced his desire for friendship with the United States. The Sultan's overture was part of a new policy he was implementing as a result of his recognition of the need to establish peaceful relations
With who?
with the Christian powers.
With the Christian powers. So what is he doing now then? What is he doing now? Because more than likely, two powers ruling the world now. Islamic and who? Islamic and Christians. So now he's trying to establish relationship with the Christian powers. Why is he doing that? Most people never ask themselves those questions. Continue reading on, you're going to find out exactly why he's trying to do right now.
And his desire to establish trade as a basic source of revenue.
What's the trade as a basic source of revenue? During 1757, you just read it early on, to 1790, etc., what was the most profitable trade that was taking place? What was it called? Cargo slavery. So he's trying to find a way, but go ahead, to continue to trade with the new nation. Why? Because remember now, 1775, right? Revolutionary War broke out. What was taking place prior to 1775 during even Dunbar? When the colonists, what was his name? Samuel Johnson said, well, how in the world are you trying to fight for what? Freedom for who? You have slaves yourself. So who was Great Britain or the British doing slave trading with?
Morocco.
Huh? So you said it, who was what?
Morocco.
Morocco was involved in slave trade. So now you leave in one jurisdiction now, because now what happened now, you got a new country that's been born, right? A new country been born is a new jurisdiction. I want to continue doing business, so what do I want to do? I got to reach out to that new jurisdiction to continue doing what?
So you can continue trading.
Continue doing trade.
Commerce.
Trade and commerce. Because that new jurisdiction did what? They won the war. If they hadn't won it, relationship would have been what? Continued. So that's what they did. Now it's time for me to reach out to that new country to continue doing what I do. Go ahead.
Faced with serious economic and political difficulties, he was searching for a new method of governing which required changes in his economy.
Go back and read that again.
Faced with serious economic and political difficulties, he was searching for a new method of governing which required changes in his economy.
Okay. So what was the situation that he was facing now?
He's struggling out.
He's going to struggle because now he just lost some money because Great Britain is no longer what? Able to do it. So now he's faced with serious economic challenges. Continue.
Instead of relying on a standing professional army to collect taxes and enforce his authority, he wanted to establish state-controlled maritime trade as a new, more reliable and regular source of income, which would free him from dependency on the services of the standing army.
Why? Because back then everybody did what? You got the strongest army still. We do it now. The standing army was responsible for collecting taxes, doing all these kind of things in between. But if I can open trade now, where everybody's trading product freely in between and I'm taxing them on those trades, right? Then guess what? It's easy. Everybody's okay because I'm paying taxes on that good. Ain't no problem. You collecting more money. Go ahead.
The opening of his ports to America and other states was part of that new policy. The Sultan issued a declaration on December 20th, 1777, announcing that all vessels sailing under the American flag could freely enter Moroccan ports. The Sultan stated that orders had been given to his corsairs.
You know who those are, right?
Now who are they?
The pirates. Because remember, they always attack ships and everything like that. They're basically against standing army, attacking ships. Go ahead.
So orders had been given to his corsairs to let the ships, de Americanis, and those of other European states with which Morocco had no treaties, Russia, Malta, Sardinia, Persia, Naples, Hungary, Leghorn, Genoa,
That's Italy.
and Germany passed freely into Moroccan ports.
Because he already reached out to all Christian what? Christian nation and Christian countries now. So he's opening his ports to come do business with him. Go ahead.
There, they could take refreshments and provisions and enjoy the same privileges as other nations that had treaties with Morocco. This action under the diplomatic practice of Morocco at the end of the 18th century put the United States on an equal footing with all other nations with which the Sultan had treaties. By issuing this declaration, Morocco became one of the first states to acknowledge publicly the independence of the American Republic.
So now you know, because of what Morocco recognition of this newly founded nation now it's able to do business as a recognized nation to nation. So now that's why American flag, Moroccan flag, everybody's flag is all sovereign. They all fly the same way, the same height. Because basically, that's one of the problems. Now look at this. Remember I told y'all before, when Haiti got its independence, they recognized them, but they wouldn't allow them to do what? Maritime trade, what? Trade. So nobody wouldn't allow them to come into what? Into their ports. That's why they crippled them the way that they did. Yeah, you want your independence here, but we're going to show you how we can stop you out. You see? All right, go ahead and then we go to the next slide, because the next slide is where you're going to find how they benefited from that. Let's go ahead.
On February 20th, 1778, the Sultan of Morocco reissued his December 20th, 1777 declaration. American officials, however, only belatedly learned of the Sultan's full intentions, nearly identical to the ports of Tangier, Sale, Mogador, informing them the Sultan had opened his ports to Americans and 9 other European states.
Okay, stop right there. So why now, right? Check this out. Why did he need to reissue another declaration?
More nation states?
No. Because he made the first declaration, they never really dealt with it. They were doing their own thing. So if that's the case, it's a,
Was it for the newly formed country of the United States?
yes, he made the first initial of but never got responded to. Never said anything. So he had to reissue another one. And when he reissued the other one, that's when you hear George Washington making what? The apology saying that forgive me for my did not see because we just implemented a new nation, etc. That's what Moores take and run with.
Okay.
Saying that George Washington was apologizing, was basically begging to be, you know, to his higher, he called to his, in other words, his superiority. No, he's not. He was being a diplomat. Because, right, it's politics. It's being a diplomat. If you, as a sovereign nation, write another sovereign nation, you didn't get a response, what are you going to do? You're going to respond back, you know, I'm sorry, I did not see that, It's just communication. But we take that and we try to make it bigger than what it is, but it's not.
So that's what the only belatedly learned.
There you
The
go.
Sultan's full intentions.
There you go. So we got the reason why I'm showing you all this because I want to put a lot of things in perspective. I want you to get the whole backstory and understand why we teach the way that we teach and why we see the things the way that we see it. You understand? If you don't have these, you'll take a lot of foolishness that people use and run will do this. That's why they get locked up. That's why they get in trouble because those that really understand the whole process of sovereignty and diplomat, how to do diplomacy and all that, they know what's what. So they know when you come in with BS. They know when you have half the story. That's why Drew said, look at the saving powers of every other nation. You gotta follow how they do policies. You gotta follow how they do. You ever find any nation in another nation court arguing? You don't. You don't do that. Continue.
Information about the Sultan's desire for friendly relations with the United States first reached Benjamin Franklin, one of the American commissioners in Paris, sometime in late April or early May 1778, from Etienne d'Albert Calais.
Who was who? Who was who?
A French merchant.
So, go back
of
again.
Sale.
So the French now is doing what for the United States now? Because the French was the first to actually do what? Recognize the United States. Why? The French always fought against who? The British. So now the French got on the side of those who wanted to do what? Leave Great Britain to form an alliance with them. The French helped supply them with weapons, supply everything. The French is the one who always been there for them. You follow me? So now the French now is reaching out to Morocco saying, yo, these new people trying to do whatever, blah, 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 blah. You understand? That's the ally. Continue. But they ain't, anyway, go ahead.
Appointed by the Sultan to serve as consul for all the nations unrepresented in Morocco, Calais wrote on behalf of the Sultan to Franklin from Cadiz on April 14, 1778, offering to negotiate a treaty between Morocco
And who?
and the United States.
There you go again.
On the same,
On the same
come
way.
down a little bit. Okay, thank you. On the same terms, the Sultan had negotiated with other powers. When he did not receive a reply, Calais wrote Franklin a second letter sometime later that year, or in early 1779. When Franklin wrote to the Committee on Foreign Affairs in May 1779, he reported he had received 2 letters from a Frenchman who offered to act as our minister with the foreign emperor.
Okay, go ahead.
And informed the American commissioner that His Imperial Majesty wondered why we had never sent to thank him for being the first power on this side of the Atlantic that had acknowledged our independence and opened his ports to us.
There's the answer now. So what did he just say? Being a sovereign power to recognize who? The sovereign nation on what side? On that side of the Atlantic. Why? Because now they're letting the new nation come into the old world. You follow me now? That's where they're missing it. So when it says it became the first to recognize, he's speaking of the first on that side of the Atlantic to actually recognize them. Everybody get that? Did y'all understand that? I want to before that is very important that you understand that. Continue.
Go back to that again, Ross.
Go back again?
Yeah.
That I just explained?
Being on side of, this side of the land,
Okay.
as far as France is concerned.
Right, because you remember now, the Sultan is where? The Sultan is on that side of the Atlantic.
That's right.
So what he's saying now, I'm over on this side. I represent my nation on this side of the Atlantic. The new nation is on the other side of the Atlantic. So now he's saying cross over the Atlantic Ocean now, right? I'm on this side and I'm recognizing you. You see what I'm going at now? Which is of the old world.
Correct.
He's telling them, look man, I wrote you a letter. Why you ain't really respond back to me, etc., etc. That's what they're explaining right there. Make sense? You got it?
Yeah.
So now it's world trade.
Now it's world trade, it's international, allowed him into the old world to do things and right. You understand?
Franklin stated, well,
Franklin stated.
Franklin stated, that's right, okay, thank you. Franklin stated that the French king was willing to use his good offices with the Sultan whenever Congress desired a treaty and concluded.
What now?
Whenever a treaty with the emperor is intended, I suppose some of our naval stores will be an acceptable present, and the expectation of continued supplies of such stores a powerful motive for entering into and continuing a friendship.
I want somebody to surmise this last right here, what you just read. There's a very important part that you see in there. Very important piece. Very important piece.
What
Or
we're
actually,
talking about-
let's go from here. Very important piece.
So now the Sultan and the Congress, the United States, so this treaty is not only goods and services, this is, if I'm seeing right, reading the word naval correct, this is military might.
Because you need military protection too as well. But what you missing there, right, in between, because see, Franklin stated that who?
French king.
So he's going from,
France and Morocco.
he's respecting, right, they're respecting his,
They're making
The first company
negotiations.
that acknowledged the United States, they're honoring and accept, like you said, respecting that they were the first.
right.
So he's going through them with the connection.
So isn't that what that says there with up top where it says the Frenchman wrote the letters in the first place? So did the Frenchman write the letters with the permission of the French king?
Right, because you remember, France and Morocco was already good friends.
Yes.
They were already doing the thing. It's just like you're going to do a business deal, right? If a friend of mine
Politics.
comes to you and say, hey, look, come in my name, I sent him, you're more apt to sit down and listen to him, right?
Yeah.
It's a referral. You got something you want to say, brother? Go ahead.
Yeah, even to this day, that there's plenty of countries on that side of Africa that a Quran or a Mexican, a main Mexican, that still speak French.
Yeah, because, of course.
Yeah, they-
Because you remember the French, what three powers that disseminated Africa mostly?
French, number one.
French,
And Germany.
you had Spain,
Belgium.
Germany. Belgium did the Congos. Greatest, worst, genocide worse than what? Than Hitler. But nobody talks about the Belgians. So, who?
I think I'll be like the bar.
Okay. Continue, and I think, you got this last, anybody want to put anything in this? Anything else on that? Gotta get this. But you understand what this document is doing, right? You got a better understanding of the Moroccan Treaty and what it's about and how, and all that? Better understanding? You can do that with somebody? You can explain that?
Yes.
Okay. Next one.
And then document, the third document's name is?
This document?
No, I got this one.
The third one, you put it up in a minute now. You'll see it. The third one is very important. Now, Sister Shifa, this one here right here, you gonna be dealt, you gonna be right on this right here. You see the third one? You can dip into it. Should be on the right hand side. Over there. Okay, fix it now. Bring it over. Bring it over. Make it good. All right. Let's get down to the beginning now. Scroll down. Scroll down. Everybody know who Lehman Brothers was? Everybody know who Lehman Brothers? Was? Okay. All right, let's get into Lehman Brothers now.
Lehman Brothers linked to slavery. So this was published October 23rd, 2008.
What happened in 2008?
The crash.
Stock market crashed. Why did it crash? What happened prior to 2008? 2007, I can tell y'all something that happened in 2007. Now most people don't know what happened in 2007.
The mortgage crisis.
The mortgage crisis check. What is mortgage? Dead what? Dead pledge, right? Who's tied to them?
Banks.
Okay, but not only that. What is
Lehman Brothers.
Lehman? If it's telling you that it's what? Slavery.
Yep.
If Lehman market crashed, why did they crash? What caused the crash? Huh? If they're linked to slavery, right? And their business was built upon slavery, right? That means somebody has to do something to take away what? The slaves.
The same thing that Britain was, the same thing with the redcoats and the colonials were fighting about. Yes.
Right. So now the question is, what happened to cause them all of a sudden to what? Disappear? Who did what? Huh?
The laws are about to change.
Yeah, but y'all failing one problem. I'm gonna give y'all a secret that nobody really is tying, that nobody knows. Speak, sis.
The bonds.
Okay, the bonds, yes. But let me ask, okay, see, y'all ain't paying attention.
Say it again, sir.
Please, you
Let's go
can.
ahead.
Y'all ain't paying attention. I told y'all, go ahead.
Well,
I'm gonna show y'all something.
that happened is our Moorish American government came online.
There you go.
And basically brought the attention to the United
There
States.
you go.
And
In 2017, we took the work and we took everything of how to save a nation based upon not only international law, but what Noble Drew brought, and we took it before the United Nations in 2017. Bam! We are on the manifest. You know what they said? We see you. We recognize you. We've been waiting for y'all for how long? It's about time y'all came up. Now, you guys are ready to do business? Go back and formulate amongst yourself a what? A government. So now, everybody starts to get rid of the dead paper. The bonds, etc., etc. They're the number one. Mortgage-backed securities.
Yeah, they're trying to hide the evidence.
And get rid of them.
Yeah.
So I'm showing y'all what happened that most of the Moorish words don't even understand, or most everybody don't understand. Because now when you go back and you read the Declaration of Independence and all that, I'm going to show you how it all ties in. Go read Act 6. When you read Act 6, right, and it tells you slave names given to slave by who? Slaveholders. How do you free the slaves? You got to take the slaves from who? The slaveholders. Only way you can take the slave from the slaveholders is for the slave to come out from amongst her and formulate what? Their own selves. So they see that's coming.
Become 5/5 of that person.
You see? They see that's coming. So now they got to get rid of the dead papers. That's why China and everybody know, but because they know all that is only tied upon you not knowing who you are. Everybody knows that they don't want to buy their papers no more. Buying their papers are going to get stuck with what? When you finally stand up, it ain't going to work jack.
Right.
Read on.
And the land too.
And the land too. Read on. Now it's on fire. The problem that we have is the Moors just hard-headed. We are hard-headed set of people. We don't even want to, we fight every way that basically just formulating, build your nation, and everybody else will back you. But we're still trying to hold on. Yes, sir. I give you the documents.
You mentioned year 2017. 2017?
2007. 2007. The year before. The stock market crashed in 2008. Barack Obama had to come and in between and all that foolishness. But that's why they did it. Got to get rid of all that dead paper that don't mean nothing. They see it's coming. Read on. Let's read this, Shifa.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Oh,
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
read on.
Several financial institutions included in the current U.S. economic crisis. Lehman Brothers, Wachovia Bank, Chase Bank, and
What else?
Inc. have interesting background stories and one thing in common, their connection to the inhumane institution of slavery. Numerous capitalist merchants benefited hugely from the transatlantic slave trade and the industries associated with it. For several centuries, the economies of the U.S. North and South were intertwined
In
by
what?
slavery.
Okay, there's your smoking gun. If you don't see that, you don't see how the whole system was built upon, tied into what?
Slavery.
Tied into slavery.
Is
What's
that
this?
why all Wackovians changed to Wells Fargo?
Oh, there you go. Because what they were doing was reorganizing and reshuffling, trying to figure out how smaller to do. You understand? It's called what you call almost like a merger or takeover.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made a change.
You gotta have the background still. Now, when you get this background, now you know how to move and you know how to navigate. Continue. So before we continue, so it's telling you, okay, Act 6 tells you slave names given to slave by slave holders. The whole economy is tucked in or locked into who? The slaves. How do you get the slaves away from the slave holders? The United Nations says, we've seen you. We recognize you. Now, guess what? You fight for what? Your equal rights, and you fight for your freedom to be taken away from the slave holders. Go and formulate from amongst yourselves. Stand up. Be yourselves. That's the only way. That's why you figure every other nation that did any slavery, they had to come out from amongst who? They slave holders. So the slaves left the system and went and did their own thing. You got to do the same thing. Yes, brother.
A lot of pivotal things was going on throughout that time frame in that year. They already knew it was coming because there was initial starts to basically being brought to attention
Yes.
of our nation
To get rid of.
nations.
Yep.
Starting in 90, I want to say 92.
Yep.
So then you have Bill Clinton try to unify the North Atlantic Treaty
North
Agreement,
Atlantic trade.
which was going to basically unify Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
And Mexico.
And it basically mutated to 2005, and then when 2008 happened, then you got a lot of these new decrees, new orders, and that's part to finish up the Noble Order Seclorum.
So, right, and what they did here is the same thing they did when? In 1868. 1865, they freed you, but you never did formulate amongst yourself, and what you ended up doing? 14th Amendment, etc., etc. Now, this is to pull you away from under that whole process. Now, since 1960, the United Nations has been telling you, look, man, we got to get rid of all this foolishness from slavery. It's in their documents. It's been telling you that. So then that's why when we went to the United Nations and we dropped it on them, we have the documents. I can send it where it said, here you go, now to 2007. Now go formulate amongst yourself. We have it. We have it. But everybody's fighting. Why? Because you know what they say? We fought for this country. We fought on this land. We fought on both sides. Blood, sweat, and tears were fought. Blood, sweat was shed. But you understand what they're going at? They're tying on to something to stay within it, then freeing themselves and do for self that you're doing for somebody else. They can't see that. Read on.
By the mid-1800s, capital investment in slaves was higher than the value of land or any other capital worth. Southern slave labor made New York City the financial capital of the world.
Okay, now, slavery made New York the financial capital of the world. Did y'all just understand that?
The World Trade Center.
So now, there you go, that's why it's that. So now, in order for this to collapse, or anything within it to collapse, how do you collapse it?
Take away slavery.
Take away the slaves. You have, and then you got everybody teaching you how to remain a slave. Everybody's teaching you that.
So is that why the World Trade Center had to come down?
Oh, who financed the World Trade Center? That's a different story again, but still. Now, when you find out now, when the third building, etc., and all of them fell, right? Which had nothing to do with the building. Guess who was actually connected and read from the insurance policy from those buildings. Scroll back up. Who are the Lehman Brothers again? Those so-called Jews again that insured the financing of who? The slaves. Go back. Let's go back down, because see what happened. You gotta understand the tricks and the loops and etc. etc. So when we teach now and we go out, we know what we know, but you don't lay technically everything on the table, because now you gotta be diplomatics. We want to get our people in here so that we can give them what they need to know, so that when they leave out of here, they can start seeing things differently. If not, it's just going to be like this, chasing yourself. Go ahead.
Cotton produced on the plantations became the main product of export and a major source of the city's wealth. Large textile mills gave New York State a booming economy. Both cotton and enslaved workers treated as property were among the first commodities on the stock market.
Okay, do you see why I just told you you're going to love this? That's how I told you? Treated as property and now traded where?
Commodities.
Under commodities. So now you know what the mortgage and everything is tied to what? You understand where we're going at now? You understand where we're going at now? Everybody see that? Continue now.
Cotton trading accounted for the country's expansive growth for an extended historical period. Profits from the slave trade financed the Industrial Revolution.
The Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution. When America was pacing everything out, profit coming, got our railroads being built, all that stuff. So now you know why they came out with what? The 13th Amendment upon duly convicted, where our people now become working where on the chain gang, building what? The railroads. So it's always been, I'm going to free you, but here's the loop. Here's the loophole. Because I still need your slave labor to rebuild what? The Industrial Revolution.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It may sound weird. Why white folks just use their own food, their own people?
Burn up this.
Why? Because we're builders. The whole world know that how number one is ain't nothing moving like us.
I know, I understand that. But I mean, why?
Why didn't they?
Yeah.
What's your answer? Anybody can answer that? Go ahead.
Free labor.
Let's go with you.
The best answer is that for an undeveloped country, an undeveloped nation that still needs to be built and built up, you got nothing but open area. So everything that's going to need to be done is going to be done outside. People who can't tolerate the sun, can't do farming, can't do agriculture, can't do irrigation, they can't do construction, all of these things to be done in the sun, until they finally get a person that can create protective equipment for them, such as Garrett Morgan,
Gas mask,
and just any other type of protection from the sun, let alone a hard hat.
Good. That's the point. I'm gonna give you another point to go ahead.
I'm camelbacking. I think that basically they knew how to make money, but they didn't know how to make money. They didn't know how to do the things that needed to be done, but they knew that. But with us being thinkers and scientists, and what we have in us, is you put it before us, we're going to figure it out, and it's going to be done.
You hit it. Not only that, who built civilizations? At the backs of who? It's on your ancestors' back.
Right.
You've already built before. You know how to do wedges, you know how to do, you've already done all of that before. They didn't enslave dumb people. You weren't dumb. You just may not have been able to deal with their language, but you are the knowledge that you have. Why? Because 1 + 1 is 2 in any other language.
Right.
Building is still just mathematics. No matter how you look at it.
And when they was discovering the
When they were just coming, we already had so many different civilizations in the
we
world.
already had civilization. We already had running water,
Already had all that.
roads, traffic. I mean, you don't.
All that was here already before even they came. There were trade routes up and down the United States when they came.
Street signs.
Street signs, all that, they ain't nothing new.
Handrails.
But they needed it to build their what? Their jurisdiction. It is what it is.
And for reasons of status.
Yes, because I am the ruler.
Right.
I want to sit and eat grapes in the sun. That's why you said so the lion and the lamb could lay down together and none of them will be harmed. That's what it is. Read on.
The Lehman family members were Alabama cotton brokers. In 1850, they founded Lehman Brothers Investments, acquiring their capital and wealth by investing and trading in cotton.
Mm-hmm.
3 sons moved to New York City in 1858, where they later helped to establish the New York Cotton Exchange in 1870.
Carry on.
In 1781, Wachovia Bank of North Carolina
There we
was
go.
founded on the profits of the
Who?
slave trade.
Stop right there.
That's why
You just asked the question.
I told you the Wells Fargo today.
You asked the same. You got it now?
Yeah, I mean, if I set it up there.
Is it?
If they sense their symbol, that stagecoach.
That's what it is. Continue. Yes, brother.
There's another important bank that was founded in between that time frame that they didn't mention, but they have they not mentioned probably here because they have a statement that
Tells you.
it's 4 years after the 13th Amendment and the ending of the Civil War. You had Goldman Sachs,
Mm-hmm.
another Jewish arm.
But Goldman Sachs, you should know what they did, right? Goldman Sachs kind of survived the bankruptcy. You know that, right?
Yes, they did.
Because what happened is now we haven't fully risen. So what they did was they softened the blow. They started getting rid of everything to soften the blow. Goldman Sachs is still there. So if Goldman Sachs is still there, what's still operating? What's still going on?
Slavery.
Slavery is still operating. Continue.
In 1781,
And why is slavery still operating? Because you haven't what? You haven't stood up. Carry on.
In 1781, Wachovia Bank of North Carolina was founded on the profits of the slave trade. Its predecessors, the Bank of Charleston, South Carolina, and the Bank of North America made loans to slave owners and accepted slaves as
Say
collateral.
that again now.
And accepted slaves as collateral.
Uh-huh.
When the owners defaulted on the loans, the banks became the new slave owners.
Ah.
The Morgan family in Massachusetts was a major stockbroker. J.P. Morgan brokers became J.P. Morgan Chase. Their predecessor banks also made loans to slave owners and accepted 13,000 enslaved Africans as collateral. When owners defaulted, the banks acquired their fortunes by becoming the new owners of 1,250 slaves.
Okay, let's go right here now.
Chase Bank is owned by the Rockefeller family.
Okay, you wanted to get that in?
And J.P. Morgan collects IRS checks and all of that.
You know that too, right? Okay, so watch here now. So if the slaves now is owner's property and they trade it on the stock market, right? How do you now trade the slave on the stock market? What do you do with that? If I got 13,000 slaves, right? And I want to trade them on the stock market, what am I actually trading?
Paper.
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 So who's tied to the debt, mortgages, etc., again?
Slaves.
You gotta understand it. Because you can't trade the human beings one of the days, you gotta trade them. Because the paper is the receipt for what? The 13,000 slaves. Yes, sis.
Social security numbers.
Even on that, because it is a stock bond paper.
Anything that's on bond, basically anything that's on bond paper,
First
Is
they
what
got
you
you.
can trade.
They got you on your marriage certificates, they got you on all of that stuff. It's on bond paper.
Read on, sis.
Another profitable company was Aetna Insurance Company, which sold insurance to slave owners wanting to protect their investments of human cargo aboard the slave ships and on the plantations, should a slave die. The life insurance policies issued
There you go.
in the 1850s were intended to compensate slave owners for the loss of people who were at the time considered property.
Stop right there. At one time, we could only buy what kind of insurance? Death. Say it.
Burial.
She'll take, what kind of insurance? She's insurance, but we can only buy what?
Burial.
Burial insurance. Carry on. Because now burial insurance, the burial, is not to the point where you can pass on to your who?
Right.
To your generation.
You know, the city of Charlotte has that still.
So what? The whole system still stands.
Burial insurance specifically.
Carry on.
Wall Street and slavery are connected in other ways. Wall Street got its name because of the physical wall built there along the river to protect New York City from invasion. Slave labor built the wall and much of the city. Slave auctions were held at the foot of Wall Street when ships carrying enslaved Africans arrived. Slavery resulted in these capitalistic enterprises becoming profitable and powerful. The foundation of U.S. capitalism was built on slave labor and racism.
Okay. Why not?
After the Civil War, the U.S. went from competitive capitalism to imperialism and became a financial empire.
Built upon what?
Slavery.
According to Act 6, built upon what? Okay, now, let me show you why this is the way it is. So Act 6 tells us, right, that names given to the slaves, right, by the slaveholders are what? Negro, colored, black, Ethiopian, etc., etc. Who has the power to change those names from Negro, colored, blacks, etc., etc.? Who has the power to do that? Congress and the census. So who's the slaveholder? Congress of the United States. But most people can't think like that. They can't see the process, so they don't know how to free themselves.
Well, isn't there a statement in here that says that they built the wall in New York City?
On your back, yes. It tells you that. Wall Street was built upon their backs.
And on top of the grave cemetery.
And that because of the energy again on your bones. They know what they were doing. Ritualistically now, put all that in there and put it there and build upon it.
So they performed the coffin.
Of course.
On
On top of the coffin. How do you get up now? How do you do that? You got free, nationality, and divine creed.
And the difference between competitive capitalism.
Now that's your tongue. Speak now. That's your lingo. That's your lingo. This is where I become a student.
Imperialism. So when you're no longer, they don't have to compete with anybody anymore because they have
a monopoly. I own everything.
And not only on the human, not only on us as people, right? But now on the bills of exchange, right? The bills of exchange all around the world
have to be done what? What's supposed to be done what? International trade, all bill exchange have to be what? In what kind of currency?
Gold.
No. No.
Silver.
No, sis.
Yes.
Okay, now you're going back. You're going back. During this time, right? All international, because Geneva Convention now, after Geneva Convention, all international trade has to be done what? In U.S. currency. That's the empire speaking now. So when you want to exchange, it has to be in U.S. currency. So now I'm an empire, I'm doing the whole financial structure being what? Restructured to accept mine. Now you know why Gaddafi had to leave. Because Gaddafi was coming out back with gold and saying that now everything has to be trade what? Back in gold.
But they say that that's what happened to a lot of the leaders as well.
Of course.
Malcolm X was coming back talking, but trying to convince us to go back to that.
Nationality, that's what he was going to. Because in the United States system is not built upon nationality. It's not.
Even Kennedy, they said, was getting ready to
Greenback, he was trying to go to the greenback.
Yeah.
Because then he realized that how the Jews with Lehman Brothers have taken over the whole system and they're running the whole thing.
Right. And they have metric tons of gold stashed away, and the dollar is not on a gold standard.
No, it's not. It's a note.
Right, it's a note.
But like you said, they're a financial empire. If you want to do business now, I became the ruler now on the whole slave process. Everything that you do is connected to the slave process. So now why you have what? The global slave collapse. Because the finance is connected globally. So in 2008, when the world finance market collapsed, it's because of the empire, the financial empire.
And so, you know, they have the World Bank, I think it was. They have all of those bankers that was committed suicide.
Yeah. Because they, you know how much money they lost in 2008?
I can
They had to bail out the entire banking system.
Okay.
So you don't even have to know how much money. It's just the whole banking system.
And restructure it, coming down with who? A whole new plan.
And they just 2 weeks ago.
That's your charge. That's your part.
Another bailout.
Because
is on the table just 2 weeks ago.
why? Now Trump is asking to do what now? Even lower the interest rate again, another quarter point to stimulate what? People to buy their paper. Which was want to stimulate growth in the mortgage industry.
Right.
Nobody. So he's dropping it again.
There's a huge surge in refinancing going on right now. My phone is ringing.
Man, I was trying to get it right now.
Yeah.
But, okay, so along with that came the fall of the automobile industry. They said it was connected to that as well, because I know the banks had to bail out.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out that connection.
That's what's happening now.
She's gonna show you.
The bailout is because the
See the finance talk now?
the cars are all financed by who, right? Hardly anybody own their car.
Yep.
Right, like nobody owns their house.
Right.
Right, so all the cars are financed by the banks as well. And just like people are foreclosing on homes, the repossession on cars is at an all-time high.
Who remember Kaya? My name.
Yeah.
She just lost her car. Got foreclosed. Not foreclosed, but repossessed. Or the bank. So you gotta get this back understanding, because the backstory is where this is very important. So the whole system is tied to slaves. Who were slaves? It's us. So if the whole system is tied to us, how do we collapse the system?
We become a financial empire. That's the only answer to that question.
How do you become a financial empire? Why? Because now you become your own sovereign, you have your own money, you understand? That's how it's done. He said, look at the saving powers of what? Every other nation. Take those and save yourself. If not, you forever be trapped in this.
So that's how Europe did it when they came out with the euro.
That's the rule.
And I'm telling you, that euro will kill you, will break you $1 American. When I went to Germany, it was on euro. And it was crazy. What I thought I was spending and what I actually wound up spending.
Landon was way more.
It was crazy.
Yep. Carry on now, folks. Let's go ahead.
Now the government is bailing out these same companies, and the burden again is falling most heavily on the working class, including the descendants of the slaves.
Isn't that slap right there?
Okay, go ahead.
No, you read. You go ahead.
So only now I got okay. So if only the enslaved Africans could have been fortunate enough to have been bailed out of the slavery system. But it's not too late for their descendants to be given reparations.
How are reparations given them?
Government to government.
Government to government. One nation to another nation. So it's in your face left and right. They telling you how to fix the problem. But here's the smart part now. She said, right, even if the enslaved Africans could have been fortunate enough to have been what? Bailed out.
Which
You
means
did.
they could agree.
Right, but here's the problem. When should this bailout have been given?
1865.
1865. You follow me now? 1865, but you never formulated.
They said you was free.
You feel what I'm saying? You never formulated because of tricks again. Free except upon being duly convicted of a crime. So what is a crime? Negro, colored, black, those are crimes. Bail out of the slavery system. So what system? Slavery system, the financial slavery system you're tied to. How can you be bailed out? What's the only way to be bailed out? Given what?
Reparations.
So what did Nationality start coming to? Nationality is the order of what? The day. If you have a nation, you must have your own what? Government, your own money, your own currency. So now this system can give you your reparation from their treasury to your what? Your treasury, and you disperse it how you so please.
Once we form our nation.
The only problem is we just can't get the knuckleheads to listen up.
Well, and not only the knuckleheads, okay, so what is really also being said here is that the money that runs through our pockets right now is our financial empire, but we keep giving it back into the system, right, because we still slaves in our mind, so we keep spending all our money with them instead of spending within ourselves so that we can build our own treasury and have a nation, because you got to have a treasury in order to stand as a nation, to have reparation to go into.
That's why Nationality said without a treasury, a national treasury, you're not even a nation.
Right. And we can do that with the dollars right now, before you get
to the other
Before we
point.
get to our own money.
Who did it? The southern states did it. Because they followed the process. When they walked out, they formulated their own treasury. Once we accumulate so much of different even notes from there, we can have our own what? Credit union. There is a way. But anyway, let you read that and then we'll carry on. Go ahead, brother man. You wanted to read something?
Yeah, this is the apology from Congress in 2009. Said, whereas it's important for the people of the United States who legally recognize slavery due to the Constitution and the laws of the United States to make a formal apology for slavery and for its successor, Jim Crow, so they can move forward and seek reconciliation, justice, and harmony for all people of the United States. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring that the sense of the Congress is the following. 1. The apology for the enslavement and the segregation of African Americans. The Congress acknowledges the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, and inhumanity of slavery and Jim Crow laws, apologizes to African Americans on behalf of the people of the United States for the wrongs committed against them and their ancestors who suffered under slavery from Jim Crow laws, and expresses its recommitment to the principle that all people are created equal and endowed with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and calls on all people of the United States to work toward eliminating racial prejudices, injustices, and discrimination from our society. And 2, the disclaimer, nothing in this resolution. What I meant, why I wanted to read that is that disclaimer part, that last piece, meant that there's nothing we're going to do about this. The part B, apologize to African Americans on behalf of the people of the United States. The people of the United States, was the detail behind that word. The people are the original signees of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and their descendants. These are the actual people, the 1% formed it. The 1% that doesn't ever pay taxes, because the United States citizen, true United States citizen that's not naturalized, does not have to pay taxes, as well as an immigrant into the United States does not have to pay taxes either. At least as long as they're recognized by their own government and country, which is why we as Moors in our Moorish American government should not and would not be doing taxes or paying taxes, because we are to pay to our own government. When we are the citizen of our own government, we were never included to be a citizen of this government, and the fact that they still call us African Americans, which is what? A terminology that came from folks who were still considered property at the time when that name or that label was created itself.
So in other words, what he just read, technically, the apology, although they given it, is still bogus, but yes, if you're apologizing for something, that means you admit that you did something wrong, right? And if you did something wrong, what's the repercussion, or what's the cure for that wrong that you've done? You see what I'm getting at now? They telling you, so what's the cure? Why you got the cure yet? Because
And the other thing about and thank you, brother, because my first question was, okay, so we need to define who the people are. And then the other part of it is that these are corporations and entities who are slave holders.
Yes.
They're not the ones apologizing. The financial barons are not the ones saying, oh, we're sorry, we made all this money off y'all.
no. No need to. That's sure. So, okay. I think I can end here. Can I end here? Or y'all need to, we're good. We can discuss these last three.
That
I don't want to go too much. Go ahead.
the quotations after that first semicolon, because I know that's camelbacking off of the Holocaust, Black Holocaust, the Dead Holocaust Museum of Slavery in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, it says
Philadelphia. Where was everything founded anyway? Philadelphia.
And the fact that it says the debt, what America owes to the dead, the debts.
Prolonged and profited from slavery.
We know we know that based on Act 6 that we are not blacks, Negro, or colored, or Ethiopians. So what America owes to Moorish Americans, the debt. So that national debt for the national people that are right here on this soil is what they're hitting on, and it's especially that last line of the late, it's not too late for their descendants to be given reparations. Islam.
Peace.
So for me, even though we may not want to go ahead and go any further with that, I think then we, as a people that's trying to impact, help lift fallen humanity. What do we do? What can we do?
Okay, good.
From this point,
From this point.
right here locally, to have a starting place?
Okay. I'm glad that's exactly where I wanted to segue into. Because now that you've gotten a base for it, you know what your home base is. So now Act 6 becomes more prevalent. Because without Act 6, we can't get to this. Now Act 6 says with us we are doing what? Teaching what?
Teaching our people.
You know, see what I'm saying? What? Because in order to get to reparation, you must have a nation. So now we're teaching you your nationality and your what? Divine creed. So we're giving you the basics of how to form that nation. So now that nation has its government, which actually now tells you that how in order, right, to what? Protect these rights. Rights, right? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, etc. What's formulated? Governments are formed among men. So now we need our people to know that we're formulating, or the government is there, you need to come under it and help build your government so that you can stand up and get what belongs to you. How do we build the government? Now we got our media department upstairs, right? We got our financial department upstairs, which deal with what? Reparations again. Then we got with us our health and herbs, or health and healings, and I said we got all the 12 departments that we need in order to be a functioning government. It's right here. But the scriptures, or even the lesson says, out of the Sunday school come the guiders of who? The nation. So you learn how the government functions right here. You follow me? So in that entity now we're moving collectively as a whole, what? Body politic, or as a government body moving along. We've learned how that works. So when we leave it, we go to headquarters. Headquarters, you function and you're moving now as actually a diplomatic council, a diplomatic, you ready, you know how to do international what? Trade and businesses. But you have to be taught these things. That's what we have here now. So we got to reach out. Hey brother, hi sister, how you doing? You want to come and learn something? We offering, what our program, what do we offer? We offer financial literacy, we're offering media, we're offering everything that you need. Under media we have television, we got a recording studio, you're going to learn how to do filming, all those things in one department. So now we have a calling card that we can use to do Act 6. It's a marketing scam. I say scam, you know what I say? A marketing plug. Strategy. A marketing strategy, so when we speak to our people, number one is they're not just hearing, oh, you know, we're not beating them over the head that way.
Right.
So now you have the tools of how to function. Transportation department, same thing. Come learn about trucking, learn about logistics, learn about what. So that now when next year comes along now, and we do South Carolina doing the same thing we're doing, especially with what, vine and fig tree, where we're doing the watermelons. They selling watermelons in where? South Carolina. Now we got to get the watermelons from South Carolina to North Carolina. Whose responsibility is that now? Transportation, logistics, right? Then we got to get it from South Carolina all the way up to Virginia. Whose responsibility is that now? Logistics again. From what? South Carolina all the way to Maryland. Whose responsibility is that? Logistics again. So now when all those different areas have done finances now, right? Sold what they sold, they keep what they need to operate. They send their portion to headquarters. We send to what we need to send. That's what we're doing what? Trade and what? Economics. Trade and commerce. There you go. So we learning how to become what? Governing, self-contained.
Right.
That's it.
And while we are doing all of that and setting the stage, also building relationships with the Asiatic
community.
Businesses
of
within
course.
our community, we have to bring them in here and explain to them what it is we're doing,
And what we're offering.
and that they will partner with us.
Of course.
And then we have our family out here that are 3/5 of a person, and they have accepted it, that that's just a way of life. We have to let them know that, you know, you are supposed to be 5/5. Let us teach you about
That's your tool. You know that now. But we have calling cards to get them in.
That's exactly.
Once they get in now, when we do on Sunday now, and what we do on Wednesday night, we unfold all this. So as they learn all this, they'll know that these two marriages together. So now they're learning this, but they're learning that because they know it's for this. So they won't leave out of here thinking differently now. You see what I'm saying that now? Because somebody may not want to learn this right away. They ain't too sure. But when they go over there learning media now, and everybody that's in there, certain people talk in certain languages, talking, it becomes what? Affectionate. It rubs off. Now what do you guys know? Because we're going to teach every department based upon what we know.
Right.
You follow me? Because now you become the teacher. You know how to stay your students curious, make their minds what? Curious, right? Stimulate their minds. You drop seeds. You drop them because now you're a planner. You're a messenger. You see? But we can't force anybody to come from there to here. We can't do that because of how we're set up. But we do that, and then Sundays for our temple or our religious studies. There's nothing wrong with that under the way that we're set up. You can't say nothing about that.
Right.
Okay? Everybody understand? We good today? We good? Peace. Everybody good?
Yes.
We ain't going into too much thing, but I wanted y'all, those 3 documents, very important, and I'm pretty sure